Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new June 1st, 2023 wave of LEGO Harry Potter sets. And this is a weird one. You see, for LEGO Harry Potter's summer wave, we have gotten a number of strange display model style sets. And I think it's actually one of the most interesting waves of LEGO Harry Potter that we've gotten in a while, which is why I figured it was worth taking a look at it. You see, out of the mainline sets, really only 3 of them are minifigure based. Sure, the Quidditch trunk does have minifigures, but that's more of an accessory pack, and then the other 2 builds have nothing to do with minifigures really at all, despite one of them actually including some figures. This is a really interesting wave, and I definitely am super curious to hear what folks' thoughts are on these sets. And so, without further ado, let's jump right into a review of these and the Harry Potter Brickheadz as well. Okay, so right here we have the entirety of the June 1st, 2023 LEGO Harry Potter releases, including the brand new Brickheadz. Out of all these sets, LEGO provided me with the Brickheadz as well as Dobby, and I purchased the rest of these sets myself, although I wanted to make a mega review showcasing all of them, so I do appreciate the LEGO Ambassador Network for providing me with some of the sets, so I could actually do this mega review by buying the rest of the sets with my own money. First off, we're going from smallest to largest. We have a set of Brickheadz Harry Potter and Cho Chang. This retails for $20 US, like all 2-pack Brickheadz. That is set number 40616 and comes with 267 pieces. Next up we have 40617, Draco Malfoy and Cedric Diggory. That is another 2-pack retailing for $20 with 262 pieces. And lastly we have 40618, Kingsley Shacklebolt and Nymphadora Tonks, right those 2 on the end there, retailing for $20 with 250 pieces. As far as the mainline retail sets, the first one we have is 76421, that is Dobby the House Elf, retailing for $35 US or 30 euros with 403 pieces. Next we have set number 76414, Expecto Patronum, that is the large brick-built Patronus right there, retailing for $70, 70 euros and coming with 754 pieces. Then we have 76415, the Battle of Hogwarts, the center Hogwarts building there, retailing for $80 US or 85 euros, coming with 730 pieces. Next up is 76416, the Quidditch trunk, retailing for 70 euros or 68 US with 599 pieces. And next is 76422, Diagon Alley Weasleys Wizard Wheezes, retailing for $90 or 95 euros with 834 pieces. And finally, we have 76423, Hogwarts Express and Hogsmeade Station, retailing for $130, 130 euros, and coming with 1,074 pieces. Throughout the course of this very strange and diverse wave, we have one of the Hogwarts building castle sets, and probably the last one that we may ever get, given they have published a fully complete layout in the back of the instructions. We have a remake of the Hogwarts Express, which we haven't gotten in minifigure form since 2018. We have a couple of strange gimmick sets, namely the Quidditch trunk here opens up and kind of is a similar concept to the books and the classrooms that we've gotten in the past, as well as a strange large-scale brick-built Patronus, so those are 2 kind of one-off sets. We have a buildable character in the form of Dobby, another kind of interesting, strange one-off character build. We have an expansion to the Diagon Alley, specifically Weasley's Wizard Wheezes we haven't gotten in LEGO set form since the large-scale Diagon Alley Street that we got in 2020, as well as a brand new Outpost which came along the set, which is one of the first times we're getting that building in LEGO form. And lastly, we have the Brickheadz in terms of Brickheadz 2-packs. 2 of the Brickheadz 2-packs are focused on Quidditch, hence Harry, Cho, Draco, and Cedric here, each representing one of the 4 different houses. And finally, the last 2-pack is focused on 2 members of the Order of the Phoenix. Overall, this is probably one of the strangest waves of LEGO Harry Potter we have gotten in a long time. Whereas most waves in the past few years have focused on the large-scale castle building system that is fully modular and encouraging folks to put things together and play around with how it's built, this only has one of those buildable sets, and then it kind of just does different things for the rest of the sets. In fact, arguably only 3 of the sets are actually minifigure scale, out of a pretty large wave, which is really interesting. Of course, the Hogwarts Express, Diagon Alley, and the castle itself. Whereas the Quidditch trunk can be used with minifigures, does come with a lot of them, but really is kind of its own thing. It doesn't really make that much sense in universe, and other sets like the Brickheadz, Dobby, or the Patronus are not even minifigure scale at all, instead acting as more display pieces instead of actual things to play with, which is an interesting new direction for the Harry Potter line, and and I'm really curious exactly how well these sets will sell, especially because they're so different than what we've gotten before. But first off, I just want to go through this review by talking through each and every one of the sets. We're going to go from approximately smallest to largest. I want to talk about the value, the minifigures, the new pieces, what I think of them, and how they stack up compared to some of the other LEGO Harry Potter sets in this massive mega review. So zooming in here, let's just start off with the first ones, which are the smallest ones, and those are of course the Brickheadz. Now these ones again were sent to me by LEGO, so thank you so much, and I don't really have that much to honestly say about the Brickheadz in general. The most entertaining thing about these was that I actually hosted a LEGO building competition with my friends to see who could build the Brickheadz the fastest. So I got 6 friends and had them all build, and that was the most fun that I actually had with these, so these were not actually built by me. But the first one here, Harry Potter and Cho Chang, you can see just going around the amount of detail included on the Brickheadz themselves. One thing I do appreciate is that they are fairly uniform in their design, and that is by intent because they are supposed to be representing the different Quidditch uniforms, where for whatever reason this summer wave of Harry Potter is focused a lot on Quidditch. What is also pretty funny is that the Quidditch trunk specifically includes these 4 characters in minifigure form. We'll get to that much later, but I think it's kind of interesting how they have synergy between the 2 different products, where you can get them as minifigs in the trunk, or you can get them as Brickheadz in the same Brickheadz sets. The thing about these though is that, to be honest, I kind of feel like this would have worked better as a Go Brick Me style set. If you're unaware, in 2018, LEGO released the Go Brick Me set, which allowed you to make your own Brickheadz, and given that the outfits are so uniform, you basically just have identical builds for every single one of them, aside from the hair of course, but pretty much the outfits are just exactly the same. This set feels like it is begging to be customized if you're a mega fan of Harry Potter and want to put yourself in the outfit for Quidditch for each of the respective houses. You could do that, but I feel like they could have expanded the concept more. They literally have this concept in the Quidditch trunk, where it does come with the default characters, of course, Harry, Cho, Cedric, and Draco, but it also came with a ton of different heads and hair pieces, so you could basically put yourself in as one of the players, and I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity not to do it with Brickheadz, given that they have done it before. That being said, maybe that set didn't sell that well and LEGO figured it made more sense just to sell the marketable characters as their own Brickheadz, so it is overall pretty nice. What is interesting is that Harry does not use the dedicated glasses piece for Brickheadz, and instead uses these special circular ones which are built into his face, but I guess that's because in the movies he has these circular glasses, whereas the actual Brickheadz glasses are more square-shaped to go along with the Brickheadz style. Overall, I do like how these Brickheadz are done. I honestly just don't have that much else to say about them. They are literally all identical builds other than the hair themselves. They're fine, but you know, we've seen one Brickheadz, you've basically seen them all. That being said, the other set of Brickheadz, 40618, Kingsley Shacklebolt, and Nymphadora Tonks, is at least a little bit more interesting because they obviously are using different types of building techniques. The one thing I really like here about the Kingsley one is that these are all printed along the side. All Brickheadz decals are printed, so it is really nice to see the hat have a full-on style of printing in this metallic gold color circulating around the head. The robes do look really good. I like how they fold around the body itself, and the Tonks one also is pretty nice. The hair is sculpted quite well, and I like the print for the torso itself, even though it's not going to really be that useful outside of this character. Overall, not much I honestly have to say about the Brickheadz other than here they are. If you're a Brickheadz fan, then these will be great, but I know a lot of people who simply are not Brickheadz fans, and that just will not be for you then. I do like how they are continuing making Harry Potter Brickheadz, although this is the second one that we have gotten, maybe even the third one actually, that we've gotten of Harry Potter himself. Got one in 2018, we got like a smaller kid version, so yeah, no, this is like the third. So they're definitely running out of, I feel, ideas on which characters to do as Brickheadz for Harry Potter, but I appreciate the effort, and I guess there is a niche market for them. They continue to sell, so LEGO will keep making them. With that though, we can set aside these characters and move on to the next few sets, which hopefully will be a little bit more interesting given that we are getting into minifigure scaled play. The first one I want to start off with is the one that we were just talking about, which is the Quidditch trunk. I think that just makes the most sense to talk about given that we were putting some focus on it just now. So specifically what I think is very cool about the Quidditch trunk is that it actually recolors the LEGO Movie Wild Style hood piece in dark red, dark green, dark blue, and yellow, which is going to be incredibly useful. For a while this piece wasn't even in circulation for LEGO anymore, so I just think it's so cool that they actually have taken that piece, which is the hood, and recolored it in all sorts of different colors for the Quidditch outfits. Of course, the capes are a specialized new cut to fit around the hood itself. You can tell it's a little bit different than the standard LEGO capes. And overall, I think these minifigures are pretty excellent. I just really love that hood piece. I'm glad they're actually able to recolor it in specialized colors, which I'm sure are going to be so useful for so many fans out there. Even for stuff like Ninjago, Aaron could use the yellow one because he does have it in the show, but he doesn't have it in the sets. But overall, I just think it's really cool to get those hood pieces in these new colors. I'm glad that piece is still around because it is a useful piece for minifigures. And here's what you can see the alternate expressions look like for Cedric here. That is just a really nice one fitting his character. Draco is one that we've seen before, but of course the worried expression is actually really funny. I actually think that really does replicate Tom Felton's likeness quite well, so I do like that quite a lot. Cho Chang has had basically the same head for almost all of her minifigures. You have a smiling expression on one side and kind of a sad or pensive expression on the other, which I think just works out totally okay. And then of course, there's Harry Potter. You've seen Harry Potter 1,000 times. Slightly serious expression and a smiling expression, which I think makes sense for these particular characters. However, the set does also include a set of different heads. These are very similar to what they did in the LEGO Ideas Foosball set, as well as the Women Icons of Play set for female soccer players, which I think is pretty cool that LEGO is doing this. What I really like about this is that you can basically see the full gamut of LEGO's entire skin tone range throughout this entire set of minifigure heads included. You have the standard kind of light nougat or flesh head, you have one intermediary color, which is kind of a newer color they just introduced, a couple of the standard ones, another set of new colors that they introduced last year, and then the darker brown color, which really just goes to show, if you turn it on its side, how diverse LEGO has come in terms of representing different skin tones, which I think is really cool. Good on LEGO for doing this, and I like how they all have alternate expressions, some of which are definitely more interesting than others. Still, it is very interesting that they are continuing to do this type of thing for sports-related sets. Obviously, we got them for the different types of sports sets that LEGO has released over the past couple of years, and even some of the hair pieces are literally the same as that ones that we got for the foosball table, like the orange recolor of the Ninjago movie Zane's hairpiece. There's just a lot of good hair pieces here in general. You also have one of the new hair pieces from the LEGO Ideas BTS set, as well as the LEGO Friends set, so really good to get this as a spare. I think this is very useful for just depicting Asian characters, so I really like how LEGO is doing stuff like that. But overall, just an interesting selection of different types of pieces for this particular set. Now moving into the set itself, you have a series of discs and a chest, which we'll take a look at in a second, and there's actually a surprisingly high amount of things that you are intended to be able to do with the set itself. Obviously, the main part of it is a trunk. It is a Quidditch trunk, so you are actually supposed to be able to open it up and play around, which I'll showcase in a second. But one thing that you'll find interesting about the instructions, which we have here, is that the instructions specifically talk you through different ways of play and to set up different types of games. Obviously, there's storage on the back here, and there's even places for the minifigures and the chest to sit inside the chest itself if you want to be a full-on carrying case. But what's really interesting is that they actually have a number of different game modes set up for depending on what you want to do. I'm not going to showcase every single one because I feel like a lot of them are really similar, but essentially there's one that has a disc launcher where you're supposed to hit a gold target, which knocks the minifigure backwards and you get a trophy. There's another one here that allows you to be able to score goals, so if you block the goal, or if you don't block the goal, then it depends on who will be able to get the trophy and score the point. There's a whole system of play there. And then there's even another system where if you have the beaters and you're hurling kind of the balls at them, if you hit the minifigure, then you get a point. If you miss the minifigure, then they get a point. So there's actually a surprisingly high amount of things that you can do with the set. I like how they've represented the different Quidditch balls using these round discs in different colors because it's just a really interesting thing to do to incorporate a full-on gameplay feature to one single set. So how exactly does this work and open up? Well, first of all, you have to basically remove all of these components. So I'm just going to go ahead and take each and every one of those out, and then we can actually unfurl the chest itself. This has a nice lock design to it, and there you go. This is the Quidditch chest, and it's actually surprisingly really compact. The banners fold upwards to celebrate the different houses. You can then remove this, which stores the trophy, the different brooms for the characters, the beater sticks and whatnot, as well as stickers. Unfortunately, no prints. It would have been nice to get these as prints, but stickers on Nexo tiles showcasing the 4 different houses. And there on the inside, you can see there actually is a full-on miniaturized Quidditch pitch, where the entire point of the set is that you can basically just take the 3 rings, stick them in the respective slots here, so kind of stick these on inwards. You can then take this clear piece right here and mount a minifigure on it. So let's say you want to mount this minifigure on it like so, and you of course have to have them holding a broom, but you know, that's, for all intents and purposes, this will just work just fine. You move the minifigure around by just moving this back and forth, so you're trying to block the goals. Not sure how exactly you're going to block the top one, because the minifigure doesn't really go on the top, but I like the effort and the mechanism being used on just the sides of the handles to allow this to be playable. And then you take your little disc launcher here, you mount another minifigure on top of it, like this is kind of their broom, I guess, or something they're using to fire, and then you just launch it and try to get it through the holes. It's a pretty simple game, there's nothing super special about it, but I like how LEGO's trying something different about the set, and that I feel is emblematic of a lot of LEGO Harry Potter sets. They're always doing something different. Are they always successful? No. A lot of the times the gimmicks aren't really that good, but they're always trying something, and that I can honestly really respect. In fact, you can see that there's other stuff that you can do here. So for instance, if you wanted to attach this point right here, you can instead take this off, put this on here, and then you have kind of this piece up here to balance. There's a lot of different things that you can do with the builds included in this set, and I like how they really are feeling very inventive with the usage of pieces. Also, very nice to get these recolored in gold, which were the original LEGO Harry Potter glasses introduced for the LEGO Hogwarts Icon set, so cool to see that being recolored. Overall, this set is really interesting. Honestly, not really my cup of tea personally. I definitely prefer sets that are mostly minifigure focused and have a lot of minifig based play in them. This does have a lot of minifig based play, but the gimmick is very strange, and I definitely feel like maybe this is not really the target demographic. Like, I think this is probably something that could be enjoyed by kids a lot more than me. It's an interesting concept, and I'm really curious what kids will think of it. Unfortunately, we do have to talk about the price here, and the price is something that really gets this set down for me. The main thing about the set and the price of the set is that, again, this is 70 euros or $68. And that feels very, very high for what you get. Yes, you get a ton of great minifigures, you get a lot of great new pieces, you get things to play with, you have an entire setup dedicated just for play, but for 70 euros, that feels exorbitantly high. Now, $68 does also feel like a result of price increases. There are a lot of very obvious price increased models, especially in this summer wave for LEGO, where it's like, okay, it probably was supposed to be $60, maybe even $65, but LEGO was like, oh, let's add a few dollars on top of it, they'll probably buy it. But I really don't know. I am not feeling the value whatsoever in this set. Yes, there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. It is great that they have the whole row of different faces. It's great they have the different hairstyles. I think that's a really cool thing to do. But every single set that LEGO does this, like where they include the different types of headpieces and hairpieces, that is a sports set, is somehow really overpriced. It's kind of like the curse of LEGO sports-centric sets, where you have different ranges of minifigures there, but it clearly is just taking up extra budget in the set. It's almost like LEGO designers were told to design the set to this price point, which is how LEGO sets work. Before you build the model, you are told to make a model of a Quidditch trunk retailing for $70. But if you put my hand here, like this is about the size of my hand. This is not that big. When I think of a trunk, I'm thinking something like this, like something really big, especially for $70. Or 70 euros, which is even more expensive. I mean, 70 euros translates roughly to around $75. So the Eurozone is having it really rough. The US price of 68 isn't much better. This feels like a $50 set at most to me. I'm gonna have to be honest, it just doesn't feel like it's worth the value, and honestly I think it's one of the most overpriced sets of the wave. So that's what I have to say. It's a fun gimmick, but it just feels really expensive for what you're getting. Really cool to get those recolored hoods for minifigures. I'm having my fingers crossed they appear on Pick-a-Brick because I want a ton of them for use in my own minifigures. But as it is right now, I unfortunately just cannot recommend this set at the price that they are selling it for. Maybe wait for a sale, because if I had to imagine, this set, being as niche and strange as it is, will probably go on sale. Setting this aside, though, we can now take a look at the next set, and we're going to focus on some of the smaller and more strange sets first before we get into the more classic minifigure stuff, because I think those ones are a little bit more straightforward, and I simply have just more to say about the weird stuff because they're strange and not like what we're used to. So this set right here, oh, there you go. There goes his little book there. This is Dobby. Dobby the house elf. And, this is a really interesting one. I don't really know what to make of this, to be completely honest. From some angles, I actually think it's pretty cute. 76421, retailing for $35 or 30 euros. This is the build that you get, and okay, I can see it from some angles. But then when he's staring directly at the camera, I don't know, there's something about the face just doesn't sit right. There's something about the vacant expression, I don't know, it feels a little bit creepy to me. I mean, maybe that's the effect of the zoom in, but I think that they were trying to go for cute, and from a lot of angles, it does look cute, but then from a lot of other angles, it looks kind of odd. And I feel like I'm very much in the uncanny valley with this one, where, okay, if I have him, like, looking at this angle, I think that looks okay. Like, this, it feels a little bit flat for a face, but it looks okay. Dead on? Ooh, I don't know about that. From the side where you can see his nose and maybe he's like angling his head and looking up, okay, like I can kind of see that. But this feels like it suffers from the same problem that a lot of these Marvel buildable figures suffer from, with just very uncanny faces being used for the characters. Trying to represent a large brick-built character with a build like this is ambitious, but overall, if you're not going to do a specialized molded head, which LEGO doesn't really do anymore, it just ends up feeling a little bit uncanny. One thing I do want to point out that I did like about the build itself is that something that's actually tucked away in here that you won't even see at all. But if you remove this platform, it is actually very hard to remove this. Maybe this is like locked in. There we go. Oh, well, if you remove a number of the different plates here, there's actually a heart inside the chest. There we go. So they have you hide his heart inside, which I think is cool. Like, he has a heart of gold. That's a nice touch, but that's just kind of a nice thing that you realize while building. Otherwise, though, this is a really weird and interesting LEGO model. So, pros are that they have recolored the Bionicle ball joint socket elements in the nougat color, which I think is very useful. That is going to be super useful for people building, honestly, better buildable figures than this. Big limitation is that mixel joints are still color locked, so the mini ball joints are still gray, and they still have not fixed that. I like the recolor of the fingers in the light kind of flesh or nougat color right here, because I think those are good recolors to have for fingers. But the build also is just very flat. Like, this is just a rectangle. It feels very boxy to me, and I don't know. At the price point of $35 or 30 euros, it feels okay. Like, I definitely feel like, okay, yeah, this makes sense to be priced at 35. I mean, 30 is better, but 35, alright, I believe that. I just don't know if it's that good of a set, because it just feels to me very uncanny. There's something about it, and I know a lot of people think it's cute, and I don't fault you. Maybe this is just my brain and how I'm seeing it, but there's something just uncanny about the face, and I'm not really a big fan of the way it works. The other thing that's mildly annoying is that there's no way to actually attach the book to his hand. So you have Tom Riddle's diary here, which is nice. You have a nice stab sticker there, and of course it says Tom Riddle on the diary itself, but there's no way to attach it to his hand, so it kind of just awkwardly has to sit here, and you're always at risk of having it fall off. Same with the sock just kind of sits in there, it doesn't attach to anything, so you can have him hold the stuff like he's holding it right now, but it definitely feels like at a moment's notice it's just going to fall right out of his hands, just like that. So definitely would have preferred just some way to attach it. It would have been really easy to just mount the hands themselves on mixel joints, but again, that would have added some more gray, so I don't really know how they would have done it. The set also includes the brick-built cake that Dobby uses to obviously magically levitate over Harry's relative's head, which is a nice inclusion. It's a very repetitive build. You are just stacking one by one studs, and also feels like if they took the cake out, they probably could have charged like $25 for this and gotten away with it just fine. So definitely feels like, yep, there you go, there goes the book. Feels like a result of extra budget. Honestly, this is probably one of the weirdest LEGO Harry Potter sets we've ever gotten. You can remove him from the stand if you want to. If you want to take him off the stand, the feet do articulate on Technic pins, so you've got that. But it just feels kind of uncanny to me. I don't know. That's just how I feel. Not much else I have to say about this one. Not the biggest fan of it. I'm glad to have it in my collection because I like weird LEGO items. Like, I always think it's interesting when LEGO goes out on a limb and does something interestingly weird like this. But overall, I think in execution, especially because it's at such a low price point, I'm not super convinced. Setting aside this set, though, we can take a look at the next set, which I actually like quite a lot, probably more than the average person. So maybe we're getting some interesting Duckbricks opinions here, but this is the Expecto Patronum set, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually really like this, and I know that this is probably a hot take because a lot of people do not like this set at all. So it's $70, 70 euros, and what's very cool about the set is that it actually allows you to rebuild it. If you buy 2 copies of the set, you can actually change the entire build completely and turn it into a wolf for Remus Lupin versus the stag for Harry Potter. I appreciate that you can actually do that and it has an official alternate build. Maybe at some point down the line, I'll actually buy a second copy of the set to do it, because I actually do quite like this. But the entire concept of the set is that this is the brick-built Patronus, so obviously Expecto Patronum. What is very cool about this is that the Harry Potter minifigure, for some reason, is absolutely kitted out with arm printing. He did not need arm printing, but I appreciate it. And this also introduces a brand new dual-molded wand element, which we'll take a closer look at for the Hogwarts dual set, but it essentially has this clear piece at the end to allow you to attach spells to the end of it, which I think is something Harry Potter has been desperately needing for a while now, and I'm very happy they actually finally made it into an actual wand. So, the other minifigure included in the set is Remus Lupin, who is a little bit more standard compared to what we've seen before. The exact head print that we have for him did appear in some of the older sets, I believe the 2018 Hogwarts Express and some other iterations of the character, so there isn't anything necessarily super special about the minifigure, but it's nice to just get another one because obviously he makes a ton of sense to include for the set itself, and the entire build can be removed from the stand, so this is kind of what the stand looks like. And you can actually have it walk on the ground if you're careful about how you pose it. It's not meant to be walking on the ground, it doesn't really support its own weight, but you can if you play around with it. What's nice though is that because it has a stand, it allowed to have a lot of extra articulation that a normal buildable Lego figure does not. Of course, as you can see here, you can move the legs of the stag itself, so you can kind of have it moving back and forth. Obviously, just be careful about how you move stuff because it does tend to knock some pieces off. Same with the back legs, you've got knee articulation here, and you've got like kind of ankle articulation, so you can really just move this around and have it be in completely different poses. The tail articulates, you have the head which can move up and down. The only thing I'm not super sold on is the transparent, fluorescent, opalescent blue piece being used for the head. It almost feels like it's a cockpit, it almost feels like this is a mech. I feel like if this was just the same color as the rest of the body, then I would have been a lot more convinced, especially because the eyes also are in the same color, but this makes it feel like it has a windscreen and kind of detracts from the eyes itself. But really, that's my only complaint, and it is really genuinely very cool to see so many specialized Lego pieces get recolored in this kind of lighter blue color. These slope pieces right here previously only existed in transparent blue for Elsa's Ice Castle from Lego Frozen and Disney Princesses, but it's for the first time in a solid color for the aqua here. Same for these quarter tiles. The only thing is that because of the color used, there are some issues with the actual color variation in the pieces themselves, where if you can really zoom in here, you will notice that some pieces are not the same color as others. It almost looks like they're sun damaged, and obviously they're not because this was straight out of the box, but it's just because of Lego's color mix for some particular pieces that causes them to just not quite be the right color. It's very obvious with this one, the rest are a little bit harder to tell on camera, but given that this was a brand new set, it was very strange having pieces come out of the box feeling like they were actually sun damaged. Otherwise though, I like this set. I'm gonna say it, like I actually like the concept behind it. I think it looks cool, the color scheme is actually really interesting, and I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. A lot of people, if it's not minifigures, they don't care at all, and I totally understand and respect that. But I just feel like this is trying something different and actually succeeding at giving us something we haven't seen before, and I can really respect that. So I like it when Lego does weird, wacky, random stuff like this, and I think it's an interesting thing to do for the Harry Potter line, which was feeling a little bit stagnant. If anything, these weird one-off buildable sets are at least injecting a breath of fresh air into the builds themselves and making them feel completely unique than anything we've gotten before. Overall though, $70, it's high. It's not that bad though. I definitely feel like some of the other sets are more overpriced. Would I have wanted this to be $60, and does it feel like it should be $60? Maybe? I mean, it has 754 pieces, so the price is actually pretty fair on a price per part ratio. Now, I know that ratio, it doesn't really matter because you really have to look at price per volume of stuff, but this is a big model. Like, As you can see, if I have my hand comparison, unlike the Quidditch trunk, which basically my entire hand could wrap around it, this is like a big model to be able to move around, so this I actually do feel is worth the price. And given that this is almost the same price as the Hogwarts trunk, I know where I'm seeing the value here. These two things should not be the same price, and yet they are. And I think putting them side by side just shows just how overpriced this is compared to this. But now we can set these aside and take a look at probably the sets that people are most excited about, the ones that are really great minifigure scale ones, and those are these three right here. Again, weird that we're only getting three, but I do appreciate that LEGO's doing something a little bit different. I'm going to start off with the bigger one right here, the Hogwarts Express. This is actually the largest set of the wave, just because it's kind of just right in the front and taking up a lot of space, so we can just move it aside and take a look at the other stuff later on. All these minifigures are included in the set, and we'll take a look at those very quickly in a little bit. But I want to focus in on the train first and just be able to showcase what it looks like as an actual model. So it does come with these train tracks, which are really great. They are utilizing the LEGO Hidden Side train loading element, which I think is a very good element to get because it allows kids to be able to easily load trains onto tracks. Now, this set actually does have quite a good interior to it when it comes to the inside of the trains themselves. I'm going to take a look at each car one by one and just be able to inspect them up close to the camera so you can see exactly what you're getting. Unfortunately, there's no actual bar action being used for the wheels here. All three wheels move independently, and this is really just for show. The really cool thing, though, is that they actually managed to be able to make the front of the train move around. If you separate these from the jumpers, just like that, you can actually have this allow you to go on turns on an actual railway, which I think is really nice how they managed to fit that in. But then also, for the aesthetic purposes, just have that closed up whenever you want to, which is kind of a nice innovation of this new Hogwarts Express. Now, this here is a sticker, unfortunately, not a print, as well as these. They were, I believe, prints in the original 2018 set, but unfortunately, they've been downgraded to stickers. But overall, I think the build of this is pretty good. I don't have really that many complaints. I just noticed I put this wheel on backwards, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that right now. But overall, pretty happy with the engine build here. You've got a nice furnace area. I think the building and shaping is pretty good. It doesn't really do anything that new or innovative outside of this. This is nice. But compared to other Hogwarts Expresses, it's just another one, aside from this front part, which is cool. Moving on to the next car here, you have actually the coal compartment utilizing 3 wheels, which is really nice because previous ones have a lot of times mostly just used 2 wheels. One thing I really like about this is that you can also just have this be moved around and played with, but I do really feel like there is a missed opportunity for coal loading into the car itself. The original LEGO Hogwarts Express that was motorized from back in the day actually did have this function. I have a lot of fond memories of playing with that version of the model as a kid, so I kind of miss the fact that in previous models you could actually open this up and store coal inside, whereas this one is pretty much just a fixed block. That being said, they made up for it with the 2 passenger compartments, which are actually 2 different compartments. As you can see here, they actually are doing 2 different things with it, and you'll see shortly why. Now, what's very cool about these sets is that not only can you remove the roof, so you can just have these pop on off, you can also remove one of the walls, so you can really just get in there and put minifigures in their seating arrangements. Sure, it's not that detailed, it's super simple, but for a train interior, I think it works out just okay for minifigures, and I actually really do appreciate that. The other car does things a little bit more interesting because not only do you have this wall that can be removed, but you also have a luggage area, so this is a space to store the trolley, which is included in the build, so you can actually take the trolley itself and you can kind of put it in there. So this is a nice little storage container for that side build, as well as just a couple of other builds that are included in the set. And I appreciate how they've actually closed off this piece and have no windows there because that's the luggage compartment, which makes a ton of sense. Overall, this Hogwarts Express doesn't necessarily do anything super crazy or creative compared to what we have seen from previous ones. I think it's just kind of more of the same, and it just feels like it was just prime time for a remake, given that the last minifig scale one was 2018. Makes sense they would do another one. Otherwise, I honestly just don't have that much else to say about this build. It's okay, it doesn't necessarily break the mold in any sense. It just is another Hogwarts Express, and it doesn't really do anything wrong. It doesn't really necessarily do anything super strictly right either. It just kind of exists. What is a little bit actually more interesting to me is Hogsmeade Station. This to me feels almost like a direct remake of one of the older LEGO sets, which featured the Hogwarts train alongside the station, which is pretty cool to see how LEGO building techniques have changed over the years. This is actually a really nice architectural design. I like the amount of effort that went into the station, and for the first time, the station really feels fleshed out as its own individual building, whereas for some previous sets, a lot of the focus goes to the train, and there's not a lot of focus on the station. Moving this around, you can see lots of nice stickers and decals referencing different moments in the Harry Potter films, like the owl post, which is referencing the owl post that you can actually get in the other sets in the wave. You have a look at the UK right there, so that's a nice map, a nice little Slytherin graffiti, and even a bathroom. Like, this is actually a bathroom built into the station that they did not need to do, but included anyway. Good to get another printed Platform 9 3/4 ticket that was debuting in the Advent calendar. Of course, you just have some other stickers right here. Otherwise, this just feels like a nice lived-in train station interior. One other thing that is just a nice, very small detail that I actually did appreciate about the set is that, yes, the train tracks are pretty plain, but they did at least manage to include some leaves and dirt on it just to make it feel a little bit more alive and vibrant, and I can really respect and appreciate that. In terms of the minifigures, most of them are fairly standard from what we've seen before. Specifically, we have Harry Potter in the youngest forms here, so this is kind of a year one set. This is a nice new print though. It is featuring the classic LEGO Castle Dragon on it, kind of acting as a coin for the Wizarding World. I really hope this appears in future LEGO Castle sets because that is a really cool piece to get, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's included in the upcoming GWP for Magisto's Magic Workshop for the Dragon Knights coming out later this year. Of course, with Harry comes Ron. Ron is just Ron. He's pretty simple. You just have these same expressions we've seen for a while, holding a sandwich, which is nice. You complete the trio with Hermione here with a dual molded, or actually triple molded skirt, or pants element, as well as the specially molded skirt, which you can see right there. You have a nice confused expression for her here, kind of like more disgusted expression, and then the standard smiling one, which I just think fits the character really well. That's just a really funny expression to get. Hagrid is unchanged since 2018. If you've gotten one, you've gotten them all, but he does have a nice new print for Harry's family, which I think is a really nice exclusive print to get to the set. Draco Malfoy is here as well, and he's suitably angry, as he usually is. We also get another student here. This is definitely supposed to be one of the named students. The name is slipping me right now, but it's nice to get this special new skin tone in this minifigure here. And lastly, we have the Conductor, who is a new minifigure for the set. And the Trolley Witch, which is also an update to an older minifigure. Not much has changed, but it is technically still a new minifig, with a printed tile for the Chocolate Frog box, which is just a really nice thing to get, and also recurs here where you can see the Bertie Bott's Every Flavored Beans here, as well as that print for the Chocolate Frog again. Lastly, there is a sign with stickers from Hogwarts to Hogsmeade, which I think is just a nice addition as well, although I do kind of wish this had a place to attach to the set. Overall though, for $130, I don't know. I mean, maybe. I think that there's the argument that can be made that this is worth $130. It does feel high. To me, this does feel high for $130. It has only 1,074 pieces, which makes me feel like this probably should be closer to $100, maybe $110, and maybe $120 if you're really pushing it. $130 though feels really high for this set. And I don't know, like, it's not as blatantly overpriced as some of the other models that we've looked at. I think it's a good set. It's just kind of a fairly standard set. It almost feels like a Star Wars Millennium Falcon, right? Every few years you have to just introduce a new version of the Millennium Falcon, a new X-Wing, and with Harry Potter, it's a new Hogwarts Express. It just makes sense, and I think it's good. There are some nice building techniques being used on the side here. There's some innovations being done to allow the front wheels to turn. For the most part, I do think that $130 is asking a bit too much. If I had to price this, I would say $110 maybe feels fair. If the train itself is like $80, I want to say, like you've got... It's hard for me to price this, but let's say $80, the tracks are like 10, so that's $90. This is maybe $20? $110. Yeah, I would say $110, not $130. So that's just how I feel about the set, but of course it's just my opinion, so I definitely want to hear from you whether or not you think the set is overpriced. And with that, we can finally move on to the last two sets, which are focused on the Hogwarts building itself, as well as Diagon Alley. So I'm going to save the Hogwarts building for last, because to me that is the most interesting. And then we can just set these aside and move on. So let's get these off the review studio here and take a look at Diagon Alley, Weasley's Wizard Weasels. So I'm going to set this all aside for now and zoom in on this set right here. So this is focused on some of the later movies, obviously once the Weasley twins opened up their shop, so it is obviously using the characters in their older variants, which I think is just a nice thing to see. 834 pieces for $90 US, which is okay, it could be better, but it's alright. 95 euros, that's high. 95 euros is pretty high, especially because that does translate to around $102, which I do not think the set is worth. However, this was actually a pretty fun and fulfilling build, and it's cool to get another just standalone Weasley's Wizard Wheezes, especially because the last one we got was part of the massive Diagon Alley set. Now, setting aside the minifigures, which we'll take a look at in a second, I want to showcase the interior of the model itself, because there's actually a lot of different clever pieces used for the interior, although the exterior is really nice as well, utilizing the rounded window pieces. Moving to the interior, this is absolutely chock full of references and Easter eggs to different moments that you can actually spot in the Harry Potter movies themselves. You have the puking pastels here. That is a really funny sticker for the puking character there. Fainting fancies. Every single one of these is labeled with something that you would actually see in the movies, and I feel like the interior of this is just so vibrant. Every single one is something that I'm like, oh yeah, I remember seeing these in the movie, or I remember seeing these in the movie. You have a specialized new print for the Bionicle ball socket or voodoo ball pieces for those furry creatures, which is just so cool to see. Peruvian instant darkness powder. This is just such a fun interior. You even have Umbridge balancing the scales here, kind of like a robotic version of Umbridge with a tan head, which is really interesting. Overall, I love the interior of the set, and I feel like the interior really makes the set. The exterior is great, but there's just so much detail to be found on the inside of the build itself that makes me a big fan of the way that this entire building was done. Now, this does also come with another building as well, and they do attach via the dual Technic clip system here, so your dual Technic pins just plug into either side to kind of form up a city street. So that kind of works just like that. Obviously it looks better when they're separated though, if you want to actually showcase them all at once. This is the Owl Post, which is a unique building. It's really small, but actually pretty clever in the way it's done. What I really like is that you actually have a chute at the top to deliver mail into, so let's say you have a letter here. You can basically just use this quote-unquote play feature, and I say play feature very loosely, but you drop that down and it kind of rolls down each end and clatters down to the ground. It's just a nice little feature to be able to just watch the mail pieces going on downwards, so I do like how this is done. Otherwise, this is just pretty simple in its setup. You have the golden owl here, owl post stickers, and that's pretty much all there is to it. I do like the stickers showcasing where the owls are actually living, which is a very memorable part of the movie. Overall though, for $90, this does not really feel that fair to me. Sure, it has a great selection of minifigures, including a lot of characters we haven't seen before. You have Fred and George, of course, who actually have different faces, so you can see on the back here, they actually gave them distinct faces, which is pretty cool how they didn't just reuse the same exact face. They've got different outfits as well, different colored inner shirts. We have some of the main movie characters as well being seen in their casual outfits for the first time. Pretty much all the minifigure characters included in this set are brand new. I really like this facial expression. It just feels very unique. You even have like some blushing or freckles around the side. Ron himself is in a pretty standard outfit, but he's worn that sweater very notably in the movies. And then you just have a couple of other different characters here, like an Owl Post worker and Ginny, which is just cool to get different minifigures because all of these are brand new. But even with all the new minifigures, $90 is a lot for the set, especially in the US and especially in Europe when it's 95 euros. So what would I price this at? I mean, for 834 pieces and for two buildings of this size, I would probably say 80. It's close, it's not that overpriced, but I do feel like it just could have been a little bit cheaper and I would have been a lot happier. I feel like I'm saying this a lot about many sets on this list, but honestly, that can be said about many sets in LEGO's 2023 lineup, so I'm just gonna have to be honest and say how I feel. But with that, we can set this aside and take a look at the final set, which is the Battle of Hogwarts. This is one of our only final movie Deathly Hallows Part 2 sets, and this is a good one. Our last set here is 76415, The Battle of Hogwarts, retailing for $80 or 85 euros, which is coming with 730 pieces, 6 different minifigures, as well as a brand new set of weapon spell elements, which is a completely unique thing they are introducing for this set in particular, which I think is pretty cool. Now, the entire gimmick of the set is that this is supposed to be based off of the final Harry Potter movie, Deathly Hallows Part 2, which is really interesting because LEGO has previously said that the subject matter of the movie was too mature and too dark for kids to be able to play around with for sets, which is why they had never done it before, but clearly they have since changed their mind, because now they are happily making sets off of the movie, which I think is really great. Now, the really interesting thing about the set is that, again, much like all of the other types of Harry Potter buildings, this is modular, and it is specifically meant to connect with the rest of the Harry Potter modular system introduced for the anniversary of the theme in 2020. Now, this is pretty cool because obviously you have the courtyard area here. I think you can instantly recognize what this is supposed to be. It is the main center courtyard where the big battle happened at the final movie. But what's really cool is you can actually convert this to the bridge. So as you can see here, you have a series of archways and stuff like that. The architecture is really reminiscent of the bridge itself. So the way that you do that is you can actually go ahead and separate these out, ideally without knocking off the support columns, which is something I accidentally just did, but you can just go ahead and fix that up. And these are essentially supposed to act as the actual bridge elements. So if you have these rotated out here, this, once you combine them, you actually do have to remove some of the torches, but there is a way that you can configure it such that this is actually the bridge, and this actually is built into the main Hogwarts castle scenery. I'll be doing a lot more with this once I actually put out my video where I actually go ahead and make that massive setup. I do own every single LEGO Harry Potter set, so I figured why not actually combine them all into the setup that is intended to be. But as of right now, I just think it's pretty cool how this set can actually act as a couple of different things depending on the way that you want to set it up. I think it's really cool how this provides a nice open battle area, but does actually allow it to be reconfigured and closed up to really feel like the actual bridge, which is very iconic for Harry Potter. Now, what you can do around here is as you move on to the back, there's honestly not a ton of interior. A lot of this set is mainly intended to be exterior battle and display space. There's a bit of a kitchen here, which is nice. You also have a nice little sticker on the side there for the food being cooked, as well as a fireplace here. But really, for the most part, what you see is what you get. The outside is the main point of this model, and really this is supposed to be a dual set, where this almost feels like a movie stage backdrop than an actual part of the building, at least in this configuration. Now, normally that might have been a problem for me, because I typically like it when there's stuff to do on the inside of LEGO buildings. I always find it more interesting when the set obviously stands on its own and isn't just a glorified play space for minifigures. But I actually really like how this particular build has been set up. I think it is done really nicely in terms of giving us an exterior play area that feels like this would wrap around an entire courtyard. Obviously, if you bought a couple copies of the set, you could actually make a full-on courtyard and have it be fully enclosed, which would be really cool. And I just really like how there's so many different points to pose minifigures on these, especially with the brand new weapon blast elements. And speaking of which, let's actually take a look at those elements in the minifigures themselves, because that is one of the most interesting parts about the set. This right here is the brand new mold for the wand that LEGO has introduced to allow you to shoot magic spells out of the tips of the wands. It's something that I feel like Harry Potter has been missing for years and years, and almost like now that they've done it, it feels like I'm shocked they didn't do this years ago, but it just makes so much sense to allow just a clear piece on the end of the wand right there, where you can see that is a clear piece at the end to allow you to shoot or attach anything to the end. Now, this does come with a weapon pack, so you can, if you want to, use different weapons. You've got like a blast piece here, you have more of a lightning type arcing spell going out of this end here. This one feels like more of a bolt. This one is really similar to some of the other action blast pieces that we've gotten in the past. Here you've got like a burst type of spell, and then obviously on the ends of the actual minifigs here, this is kind of the main hero one that you're supposed to use, where you actually have this piece right here allowing you to have a duel with another minifigure, which I think is pretty cool, allowing that to shoot outwards. You can choose to replace that piece and put a shield instead, so if you want to kind of shield yourself, that could work, or if you wanted to, you could do what I've set up here, where you have the blast piece being used here, and then you can just stick the shield on the end of it, which adds a bit more oomph to the end of the spell. And the same thing is done with Voldemort's in green here, and I cannot wait for these to come in different colors, for the wands to be recolored. Right now we just have black and white, so these are the only two colors they come in for now. I am sure they're going to recolor this in brown and all the different shades like they've done for the other Harry Potter sets, but this is just such a cool look. Obviously, this is exactly what it looks like in the movies themselves, and I'm a big fan of how this came together because it just feels like something that LEGO should have done ages ago. Now, the minifigures in the set are all brand new and specifically represent these characters at this point in the movie, so Harry Potter himself is honestly probably the least interesting because he just has the standard two expressions, and really what is new is the torso print. What is very cool, though, is that we actually have Neville Longbottom in his appearance from the final battle, wielding the amazing dual-molded Sword of Gryffindor, which was introduced for the collectible minifigure series. This is such a cool sword mold. It's definitely one of my favorite sword molds out of LEGO, and what's really cool about this is that he has the alternate expression, which kind of is bruised up and dirty, and then on this side, where he's almost like fighting back and worried, where you see that signature Neville tooth cap. Overall, very cool minifigure to get here. I love the determined expression that he has, and this is one that we've been wanting for a while. Likewise, we also have on the hero side, we have Molly Weasley here, which makes sense to include because she had the showdown with Bellatrix, so obviously you've got the nice dark brown or kind of standard brown torso and skirt element here, and you have the printing very simple on the back, but this has two different expressions, which you can see right here. Now, one thing that's cool is that you have three heroes, but you also have three villains. So obviously the main one is Voldemort. I mean, I guess you have four because you have Nagini the Snake as well, but Voldemort is really the main villain minifigure of the set. I love the new facial expression where he's cackling. That is such a fun expression to get. The sand green outfit also looks really good with the dirt stains, kind of the stained robe. The only downside here is that unfortunately Nagini is not printed. They literally made a printed version of the snake in city sets, as well as a printed version of the snake that was supposed to be Nagini in the actual collectible minifig series where the eyes are printed, but unfortunately they just included a plain one in the set, which feels like a bit of a step down compared to what we've gotten in the past. Otherwise, this is a really good rendition of Voldemort, and I am a big fan of the way the expression in particular turned out. The other character to get here is Bellatrix, where she actually has dual molded arms, which is a bit of a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. I'm really happy that we were able to actually get dual molded arms for this character. It just makes total sense that they actually were able to do that for this minifigure. Not everything else about the figure is pretty simple, honestly, like you just have a plain black skirt here. The torso printing is similar to what we've gotten before. The hair is the same since the 2011 wave, and you can see the two facial expressions there, but it just feels that much more special because of the dual molded arms. Lastly, we have a minifigure appearing for the first time. This is Scabier. He was one of the villains on the side of Voldemort. Obviously, he has a very villainous look to him. I just like this overall outfit. The head is also a really good one, and you also have a scared expression for when he's kind of running for his life, which I think is just a good one to have. Overall, this feels like just kind of like an expensive Hogwarts battle set. You have three heroes, you have three villains, and they are duking it out on the Hogwarts castle grounds, which I think is just a really cool idea to have for a LEGO set. I do like the concept behind it. The execution is pretty good. And finally, we can talk about the price. So $80 surprisingly feels not super bad for this. If it was $90, that would have been ridiculous. I'm kind of surprised it wasn't $90, but $80 feels okay. Would I have wanted it to be $70? Yes, but I definitely feel like you actually are getting quite a lot with the set. From 6 brand new minifigures to new molds with the weapons and energy blast, to a completely configurable Hogwarts that also doubles as the bridge in between different sections, allowing you to use the set to literally bridge the gap between old sets and new sets from 2020 until now. This is the perfect set to get if you're wanting to make a Hogwarts layout because it comes with a lot of the important characters, but it also comes with a lot of nice exterior design and detailing for your own Hogwarts courtyard battle. Honestly, I don't really have that many bad things to say about the set. Maybe the interior could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but really that's not the point of the set. The point is to be able to actually have this entire build as its own layout to act as the bridge between different aspects of other Hogwarts modular buildings. And at that, I feel they succeeded very well. So I definitely would actually recommend this set overall for $80, doesn't seem that bad. In Europe, 85 euros is unfortunately quite bad. That translates to roughly $91, which feels very unfair to me, but 80 in the US feels alright. And with that, we have summed up the entire wave of LEGO Harry Potter sets, and I'm really curious how folks would rank these. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think of the minifigures, the builds, and this has been one of the strangest Harry Potter waves of all time. I appreciate that LEGO is trying new things and giving us completely new concepts for display models and sets. This feels like the most traditional model for a LEGO Harry Potter set, and even then this is doing something a little bit different. But I'm just curious, how much longer can the Harry Potter theme last? Because I feel like we've already gone through 2 different iterations of castles. We had 2018 to 2020, which had the gray roofs. We now have 2020 to 2023, which have the kind of sand green roofs. Will Harry Potter reinvent itself next year? Or what will they do with the castle sets in the future, given that this layout of the castle is basically done? We're just gonna have to wait and see. I'm very curious what they actually do with the theme after this year, and I feel like this is kind of a point at which the theme feels like it needs to reinvent itself yet again to continue to stay fresh, and obviously they're doing new things, they're throwing things at the wall, but I would like to see a new reinvention of the Hogwarts modular system. I think if they started again next year with a great haul, that would be pretty cool. We're just gonna have to wait and see though. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this review of every single one of the brand new June 1st, 2023 LEGO Harry Potter sets. Okay, and with that, we have summed up our look at the brand new LEGO Summer 2023 LEGO Harry Potter wave. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of these sets? Do you like them? Do you dislike them? Which is your favorite and least favorite? And actually, how do you think this wave compares to many of the other LEGO Harry Potter waves we've gotten in the past? I, for one, am really excited to see if they will continue to try to reinvent the theme as it continues into the future next year, because they've pretty much exhausted this particular iteration of the modular castles, but we're going to have to wait and see. Thank you all so much for tuning into Duck Bricks. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming away very soon, and bye for now.